Video. We're going to go through the correct amount of protein, carbs, and fats to optimize metabolic function and to optimize fat loss in men. And we're going to go through exactly how much protein, carbs, and fats that you need to get to a next level lean physique. So this is going to be a complete comprehensive case study on macronutrients and metabolic function. So we're going to go through one of a case study of my client's transformation he made in only 14 days. And I'm going to actually go through the actual macronutrients that we gave him, exactly what it looks like. But really, we're going to get into deep science of like how macronutrients do affect your metabolic function, how protein does, how carbohydrates do. And then we're going to go through a couple of facts that you've probably heard about protein, like can you eat too much protein? Can you only digest a certain amount of protein, carbohydrates, and digestion? And then we're going to go through the exact formula that I use on calculating the correct amount of carbohydrates, protein, and fats for metabolic benefits and digestive benefits as well. And then we're going to go through James's 14-day transformation. So got a lot of great stuff to cover, but I've been getting a lot of questions on our channel about what the correct amount of protein, carbs, and fats we need to eat. And so I'm just going to lay it out on the table for you guys. So make sure to stick around, watch this entire video, like, comment, and subscribe, because I'm going to give you a bunch of really good stuff to take home today. So if you guys don't know me by now, my name's Anabano. I'm an online metabolic specialist, and I specialize in the enhancement of metabolic function. We specialize in a process called Metabolic Priming with me and our clients that we've worked with, and we've worked with almost 400 plus men online, getting them to next level lean physiques, manipulating their metabolism through carbohydrates, protein, and fats. And so today we're going to go through an actual case study and understanding overall metabolic function and protein, carbs, and fats, and answer a bunch of the questions that you guys had. So this is my client James on the left right here at a low carb, high protein diet. And this is my client James on the right here on a moderate carb and lowered protein diet. And he's 50 years old in a 14-day side-by-side, all right? So let's dive right in. So how do macronutrients affect metabolic function? So let's start with protein, for instance. So protein has 4 calories per gram, gets broken down into amino acids, which are the building blocks for the body, build and repair muscle and bones. I'm guessing you know that. It takes more energy calories to build and maintain muscle than fat. People with more muscle mass often have faster metabolisms that burn more calories. So the first thing we want to understand about protein intake is that it does build muscle, yes, but it also helps because the more muscle mass that you have, the greater your metabolism is, right? Because it takes a lot of calories to sustain muscle tissue. It takes 8 calories to sustain just 1 pound of muscle tissue, while it takes 2 calories just to sustain 1 pound of body fat. So muscle tissue is 4 times as metabolic than body fat. So weight loss versus fat loss. That's why a lot of people get in trouble with overall weight loss and chasing new numbers on the scale, is because when you lose weight and you lose muscle tissue, you become less metabolic. But also in the benefit of overall body composition, and that's mostly what guys come to me for, is getting to a lean body composition. Having more muscle tissue allows you to look leaner at a higher body fat amount, right? So take this example right here, 15% body fat at 150 versus 15% body fat at 180, right? You look a lot leaner. You have more muscle structure that is more pronounced and defined. And so how does all of this correlate to your overall metabolism? So this is the breakdown of your metabolism right here. So protein intake significantly affects metabolism by increasing the thermic effect of food, boosting satiety to reduce overall calorie intake, and helping to maintain or build muscle mass, which also elevates metabolism. When you eat protein, your body burns more calories to digest and metabolize it compared to fats or carbohydrates. Additionally, a higher protein intake can suppress appetite by increasing fullness hormones and decreasing hunger hormones, and it helps preserve lean muscle, which is crucial for long-term metabolic health during weight loss. Why this is crucial is because a lot of guys who lose weight lose muscle tissue, which that's why you gain a lot of the weight back, is because the less muscle tissue you have, the less metabolic your body is. So when we dive into where this all correlates is, yes, protein has a 35% thermic effect, the highest amount of the 3 macromolecules. So thermic effect of food makes up 10 to 15% of your overall metabolism, right? Exercise activity, where you guys focus, tends to be like 5 to 10%. But what it really comes down to, the benefits is the increased thermic effect of food means that your body burns more calories for several hours after eating, which can help with weight management and fat loss. Your body uses more energy to process protein than other macronutrients, increased fullness, reduced hunger hormones, which is all very important when you are dieting and losing body fat, because in a sense, like, losing weight and losing body fat is a controlled starvation, right? That's what it is. Dieting is controlled starvation. And so we want to understand that we need to mitigate hunger responses to have a better and easier weight loss transformation, but also more sustainable. So improve body composition and muscle mass preservation. So where our clients focus from a metabolic perspective is that 60 to 70% of your overall metabolism being your basal metabolic rate. Why we have such great client success is because we understand, metabolic function at a very high level. Where most guys will come and they'll focus is they'll burn and spin their wheels on that 5 to 10% working out and doing cardio. Why our clients are quite literally doing less, eating more, and getting better results because we focus on more important factors of your metabolism. Because metabolic rate and support within protein intake, muscle is metabolically active, and maintaining lean muscle mass helps to sustain your resting metabolic rate and overall basal metabolic rate as well. And so we can kind of correlate certain factors of protein intake to your overall metabolism. But when we get into carbohydrates, which is where we primarily focus using a higher carbohydrate, lower fat diet, is that breaking down carbohydrates very, very simply is that carbohydrates have a 4 calorie per gram. So protein and carbs have a 4 calorie per gram, a thermic effect of 10. Carbohydrates support bodily functions, so keep that in mind. Makes up 60 to 70% of your metabolism. Body's main fuel source gets broken down to glucose for energy. Extra is stored in the liver. So let's break this down and see what benefits carbohydrates has within your overall metabolism. So one big benefit with overall, obviously, yes, non-energy activity thermogenesis, but thermic effect of food is that carbohydrates have a 10% thermic effect as opposed to fat has a 3% thermic effect. So with carbohydrates, we can correlate having a higher thermic effect of food, a better activity within your non-energy activity thermogenesis. Like carbohydrates indirectly affect NEAT by influencing energy levels. Carbs is our body's primary source of energy, meaning adequate carb intake can support higher levels of increased energy and movement through the day. And then even getting into the biggest part where our clients do focus in your basal metabolic rate. And so getting enough carbs can lower reverse T3. Not eating enough carbs will increase it, thus blocking the important work of T3. So what T3 is basically your active thyroid hormone. High carb diets are associated with higher T3 levels, while lower carb diets are associated with lower T3 levels, right? And they've done studies on, the effects of dietary composition of serum T3, reverse T3 in men. We conclude that dietary carbohydrate is an important regulating factor in T3 production in men. And then metabolic slowdown within low carb diets. So low carb diets have been pushed for a very long amount of time in the industry for the importance of just unsustainable weight loss and just a lazy approach to fat loss in general. Obviously, if you've tried low carb diets before and you're watching this channel, you know how unsustainable they actually are. But carbohydrates actually support bodily functions and your basal metabolic rate. So changes the body to a carbohydrate metabolism can offer several benefits, including providing readily available energy to support brain function, aiding in weight management, brain function, efficient energy storage, improve exercise performance, metabolic flexibility, and a nutrient-rich diet. So we can correlate basically carbohydrates to a lot of how your metabolism does work within NEAT, thermic effect of food, basal metabolic rate. And, like I said, most people will sit right here and spin their wheels for years on end trying to do endless hours of working out and endless hours of cardio, low-carb dieting, when our clients are simply just focusing on the right areas and making better progress faster. So let's get into fat intake, because this is probably the most misunderstood macromolecule out of the three. I grew up in a place where it was just high protein intake. My father used to give me Snickers bars before baseball games because he said there's 25 grams of protein in, or how many grams of protein's in a Snickers bar. Obviously, now that I know a little bit more about nutrition, I know that there's a little bit of detriment coming from that. But anyways, fat intake has 9 calories per gram. So it has twice the calories per gram as protein and carbs. It gets broken down to fatty acids for energy, extra stored in liver. It gives the body energy to help support cell function and hormones, okay? So the key effect on intake on metabolism, fat is the most energy-dense macronutrient, providing twice the calories per gram compared to carbohydrates and protein. So consuming too much can lead to weight gain, right? So that's where people go wrong, is they don't control the amount of fats. So we focus on a lower fat diet and a higher carb diet, which is going to have a bigger benefit to your overall metabolic rate. And when we get into overall, let's say thermic effect of food, for instance. Thermic effect of food of fat takes 3. It's a very low thermic effect. But fats do play an important role in your diet, right? Healthy fats are vital for maintaining gut lining, which is crucial for nutrient absorption and other metabolic functions. High-fat diets can lead to metabolic dysfunction, causing enzymes involved in sugar, lipid, and protein metabolism can increase insulin resistance, okay? So in a lot of cases where guys accrue insulin resistance is a higher carb and higher fat diet because it causes what's called metabolic gridlock, where the body doesn't understand what energy pathway to utilize, and so it becomes confused and backs everything up, and that's what would lead to insulin resistance. And so energy and satiety. So insulin sensitivity, a high-fat diet, especially one rich in unhealthy fats, can lead to insulin resistance, and poor glucose tolerance, increasing the risk of type 2 diabetes and other metabolic functions. So what I want you guys to understand is when you understand how protein, carbs, and fats work within your body, you can influence energy levels, you can influence hormones, you can influence metabolic function, and you can influence a lot of health factors. We've had a lot of guys come to us with borderline type 2 diabetes, and we've been able to reverse engineer how their body utilizes glucose. We've had guys come to us with blood sugar issues. We've been able to reverse engineer that as well by utilizing protein, carbs, and fats. It's extremely important to note that how much protein, carbs, and fats is extremely beneficial when you're trying to make progress, get to a next level physique, improve health markers, and just overall have more control and predictability about how your body does respond. And it's just important to note that it's the most important things. Yes, you can track calories. Yes, because calories do affect your weight, but macronutrients are going to affect how you specifically look, health markers, body composition, body fat mass. And when you understand each one individually, how they correlate to someone's human body composition, you can have unlimited amount of oversight in how their body does respond. And that's why our clients see see such great progress, is because we do understand in full how macronutrients do work. So moving on to some things around protein, because the basis of this overall case study is we're going to get into James's case study right here, and we simply just lowered his fat intake and protein intake in this, and I'm going to show you how we did that, but we replaced a lot of it with carbohydrates. So there's a lot of misconception when it does come to protein, can you eat too much protein? And we've had guys in the past come to us eating too much protein, because eating too much protein can lead to a little bit of digestive health. So too much protein can be bad for your digestive health, potentially causing constipation, bloating, and changes to your gut microbiome, primarily because high protein diets often lack sufficient fiber and can lead to dehydration as the body works to process excess protein. To mitigate these effects, it's important to balance protein intake with plenty of fiber-rich foods like fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and the carbohydrates. Constipation, bloating, and discomfort, gut imbalances, low fiber intake, and dehydration. So you can eat too much protein. And after a certain amount of grams of protein, there's almost a return on benefit to eating more, right? You're better off reversing and putting carbohydrates in its place to have, a healthy gut microbiome, probiotics, prebiotics, fiber in your diet that support healthy metabolic functions, but also healthy digestion. And so after a certain amount of grams per protein, there is a return on benefit, right? And that's why keto diets or the carnivore diets do cause a lot of gut microbiome issues and a lot of digestive issues because of the high protein and high fat intake. So can you only digest X amount per protein per serving? We've heard this. I know you've probably heard this amongst the social media hype saying you can only digest 30 to 60 grams of protein per serving. And that's just simply not true. I think Dr. Lane Norton did a study once, and he was explaining that just logically, that doesn't make sense. If you can only absorb and utilize 30 to 60 grams of protein, well, that means that I could just eat 100 grams of protein per serving, and 40 of those grams of protein per calories don't even count, which obviously that doesn't make much sense at all. I could just eat protein all day, but my body would only digest and absorb X amount, which would mean that I can eat as much protein I want and not gain weight. Wouldn't make much sense. So even in this study, it says that in conclusion, there is no upper limit to the amount of protein the body can process in a single meal. However, it's important to consume protein intake in moderation as part of a well-balanced diet. Excessive protein intake can lead to weight gain and other health-related issues. So why carbohydrates are more beneficial in place of protein and in place of fats? So carbohydrates just digest faster, right? Because when you think about metabolism and metabolic processes, the first thing we have to utilize is how your body breaks down the food first, because it's the first process in metabolism. How your body breaks down the food to later utilize the nutrients from the broken down food. That's metabolism. So we need to understand that digestion is the most important part of when it does come to metabolic function. So simple structure, carbohydrates broke down into sugars, which are simple unit amino acids that are easier to digest. Faster stomach emptying, complex structure, satiety, a longer digestion time for protein, contribute to feeling fuller for longer after meal, which can be beneficial for weight control, yes, but having carbohydrates in there allows us to actually reduce leptin levels, which is like or increase leptin levels, which is the satiety hormone, make you feel more full. You've ever eat like a high carbohydrate meal and you feel like just satiated, you feel warm, you feel good. And a lot of that comes with even like in neurotransmitters within your brain, like feeling full and feeling satiated. For instance, like serotonin. So carbohydrates are directly linked to serotonin, directly linked to better sleep. So it's important to know. But benefits in consuming both together, because we do need both. We need a higher protein diet and a higher carb diet with a little bit lower fat diet to utilize, metabolic function at the highest level. Enhance nutrient absorption. So carbohydrates act as a transportation mechanism for protein. So that's why after a certain gram amount of protein, you're more beneficial adding more carbohydrates instead of adding more protein, because carbohydrates are protein sparing and they're a transmitter and a transportation mechanism of protein into like muscles. So improve muscle recovery, stable energy levels, gut health. The fiber and carbohydrates support bowel movements. What this means for your digestion. Instead of choosing one or the other, focus on consuming both carbohydrates, protein, and you'll be able to support overall digestion, satiety, and nutrient absorption. It's important to note that you do need to have both in your diet, but the amount is where people go wrong, and I'm about to explain exactly how much you need to eat, okay? So you're calculating the correct amount for metabolic and digestive benefits. So protein intake, you take 1 to 1.2 times your body weight in pounds. No need to go over 250. 250 grams is the max that we will go, and you're better off having more carbs in its place after 250 grams. So remember how I talked about there is a detrimental return on benefit when you go over 250 grams? Because carbohydrates are protein sparing and they are a transportation mechanism of protein, and so you're more beneficial after 250 grams to have more carbohydrates in its place rather than to go above 250 grams. So if your body weight is 200 and you've been eating 180 grams, start off at lower, like 1 gram, and then you could eventually work up through the weeks as your body composition progresses. Fat intake, so 3 times your body weight in pounds, and I'm going to show you some of these foods that you can actually stick to here in a second, so stick around for that. But fat intake, 0.3 times your body weight in pounds, never go below 40. So I've had a couple guys comment on my YouTube channel and say like, yeah, I've been eating 20 grams of fat. You're going to be very detrimental to your not only digestive health, but also your hormones as well if you go below 40 grams. And even if you are on testosterone replacement therapy, you're above age and you're clinically prescribed to testosterone replacement therapy, still do not go below 40 because it is beneficial for your overall digestion and gut microbiome to have healthy fats inside of your overall nutrition protocol. But also when you start to go below 40 grams, you start to diminish testosterone levels, you start to diminish hormone levels. So the bottom end would be 40. So for example, 200 pounds times 0.3, 60 grams. So the next thing I want you to do with your carbohydrates, backfill the rest of carbs, which you're already eating in calories. So basically take the amount of protein intake that you calculated, the amount of fat intake that you calculated, and fill the rest with calories to meet the calorie amount fill the rest with carbohydrates to meet the calorie amount you're already eating. So for instance, if, your intake is 2,000 calories and you want to actually reverse engineer this and actually get the correct amount of protein, carbs, and fats, you take the calculation of your protein intake, which let's say, it's just 200. 200 times 4, because protein is 4 calories per gram. 2 times 4 is 800, so 2,000 minus 800. And then you would take 60 grams times 9, which is 60 times 9. And off the top of my head, I don't know. But you take that number and then you subtract that from the 2,000 as well. And then the number that's left in calories, you divide by 4, and that's your grams in overall carbohydrates. And then you slowly start to work up over time. Because as you transition to a carbohydrate metabolism state, and I have tons of videos of this on my channel, guys, so I'm not going to get into too much of depth with it, but as you transition your body to a carbohydrate metabolism state, you can actually eat more food and boost your metabolic rate. And I have tons of videos on it, and I implore you guys to check them out. But that's what you want to do. You don't want to go lower. You actually want to increase your metabolism by increasing the food intake. Because when we have control over protein, carbs, and fats, and 90 to 95% of your metabolism and how your metabolism works, we can actually do less cardio, we can eat more food, and we can lose a significant amount of body fat because we're focusing on the highest impact parts of your metabolism without having to go crazy over hardcore dieting, working out, and cardio like you're 22 again. You don't got time for that. You want something that's easy and beneficial. So what can we focus on with a high fat, low fat, high protein diet? So the rule of thumb I teach my clients is the wider the meat, the leaner the meat, right? So focusing on like wider meats like cooked shrimp, mahi, egg whites, tilapia, vegan protein powder. I would never recommend going over 2 scoops of protein powder, cottage cheese, tuna and water. So always remember that you want to get the tuna and water, not olive oil, because the olive oil is going to have fats in it. Boar's head turkey, ground chicken, fat-free yogurt. So these are all like options you can utilize that are high protein and low fat. So like obviously we don't want to stay away from moderate fat, high protein like ground turkey, salmon, bison cooked, chicken thighs, flank steak. All those are great sources of micronutrients. We just need to mitigate those because if we're trying to stay within a fat amount, we need to make sure that we stay under that fat amount and utilize more of a higher protein, lower fat diet. So getting into James's transformation here, and this is a beautiful transformation by James all around. James is one of our great clients. He's a banker out of Boca, and he's a great-ass dude. But what he was doing is he was actually on a diet of 400 grams of protein, 90 carbs, and 150 fats. So in our initial consultation, James works from home, currently works out with his friends in the driveway, doesn't want a gym membership. He's been getting 10K steps a day, has never had any guidance on nutrition. This will be huge. He currently fasts for 2 days a month or do 5 days of no carbs to get lean. He currently weighs 245, wants to drop 15 pounds and wants to find 6-pack. Married with 2 kids and wants more energy. So what's happened here with his energy levels, he's crashed his metabolism with low carb dieting. He's also, with digestion-related issues, having a higher fat and higher protein diet, you're going to run into digestive issues, which is therefore going to actually lower your energy levels as well. When you have digestive issues and your body's working overtime to rush blood to your gut to fix what's going on, to help with digestion, it can make you feel like very tired and drawn out. Like you've ever been at a Thanksgiving dinner, a birthday dinner, or even like a wedding, and you ate a bunch of food that's high in fats, and right after you just feel like you just want to pass out because you're super tired. Well, that's one, because the high-fat diet has slowed your digestion down, and now your body is rushing blood to your gut to speed that process up. And so it was very simple. We needed to lower his protein intake, lower his fat intake, and raise his carb intake. And just within the first few weeks, and like he didn't actually lose much weight. And to be honest, that's why I put into context for you guys. It's like it's not about weight loss, it's about fat loss. Because what we did is we replaced a lot of intramuscular glycogen that he was missing, and his body sucked up and dried out extremely quickly. And I can pull these up real quick to show you the step-by-step transformation he made and this was, last year, and James is actually still with us, still an active client. He's been a client with us for years. But like he went from just 14 days, guys, 14 days, all of a sudden just lower the protein intake, lower the fat intake, raise the carb intake, and just within 14 days, he came back just absolutely shredded. His side shot, much, much leaner. I mean, you can even see like how much digestion we just cleared up just from getting the correct macronutrients. And keep in mind, he's eating more. He's eating more calories here, right? More food, not less. He's eating more food, not less. And I want to put that into context just because it's important to note is that like what we do with our clients is we boost their metabolic function through correct macronutrients and correct protein, carbs, and fats. And how much more sustainable would it be if you could eat more food, do less cardio, and get leaner rather than killing yourself with cardio, fasting for 5 days straight, and killing yourself with all this extra stuff that you don't really need to be doing anyways. Our clients are quite literally doing less, eating more, making better progress than half the industry right now because we don't take a lazy-ass approach to fat loss. We take a correlated, data-driven, scientific approach to getting to a next level lean physique utilizing high-level strategies of metabolic manipulation. And this is a repeatable process we've used with 400-plus guys. But this is what it looks like perfectly, guys. You nail the macronutrients. You switch these around a little bit. You lower the protein intake. You raise the carb intake to improve digestion and metabolic function, and increase NEAT, increase T3, which is that, like I said, the active thyroid hormone, and then reduce fat intake to improve digestion as well. And it happens very, very quickly, guys. So, like, this is what it looks like beautifully. Like I said, he's a beautiful client of ours. And we still work with him to this date. But he's absolutely shredded at 50 years old. Absolutely freaking shredded. And I mean, we work with a lot of 50-year-olds. I mean, I'd say like 95% of the guys we work with are above the age of 40. Yeah, above the age of 40. And let me just show you some of these guys who are above the age of 40 right now in our program. Like I said, eating more food. This is one of my really good clients, Dan. We're gonna have a testimonial coming out with him this week. He's 57 years old. Nate, 48 years old. Cam, 45 years old. Let's see. Will, 43 years old. Let's see some of these other guys. Oh, yeah. Antonio, he's from Brazil, overseas client, 48 years old. Let's see. Oh, yeah, and then our client, Doug, who's actually competing in a bodybuilding show, he's 45 years old as well. And absolutely shredded, down almost 200 pounds. So, like, what we do works, guys. And this is what happens when you use an actually correlated, data-driven approach to fat loss, not a lazy-ass approach that, you know, you get from your local trainer at the gym. So, anyways, if you like these type of videos, like, comment, subscribe. If you're somebody who has been struggling and you want to get to a next-level lean physique and, like, you just want it all taken care of, you want all the BS, you don't even want to think about it, and, like, you just want somebody to say, hey, do this, change this, the link below will actually take you to a page that'll explain a little bit more about our program, because we will take care of literally everything from the T on anything you have to do with travel, anything that you have a question on with macronutrients. We make it so simple for our clients to follow. It is quite literally impossible not to succeed. We have over a 97% client success rate. And, you know, we were actually recognized on Trainerize last year as top 4 out of 400,000 different online training companies for the approach that we use with overall habits and lifestyle. Because like I said, we work with guys 40 to 65 years old who are super busy guys. Like, we work with bankers, we work with CEOs, executives, we work with Delta airliner pilots, and all these guys, like, they just need something written down for them and say, hey, follow this, make it as simple for me to follow as possible. And that's why they see great progress. But if you're someone who's just stopping by and wants some free information, this will help you make the initial progress. But just keep in mind that 90% of the things that are in my program, I keep off this channel because of my paid for clients. But anyways, like this video, like, comment, subscribe. Check out that video down below if you're interested in actually getting to a next level lean physique like the 150 guys we are currently working with in our program. And I'll see you guys next time.